So I know it's been a while since the last time that I posted something. It's been like something like 5 months. I am very sorry that it's taken me so long to get around to making this video. I had a bunch of plans, like I wanted to do a bunch of zoom in effects, and when it rains, it pours. So today, what I'm going to be going over is everything to do with the equipment in the game. So I just figured that we'd start top down. So starting from the top of the screen and working our way down. So the first thing, in order to get to equipment, you just press the bottom and then the equipment. So at the very top, cosmetics. This is how you change your character to look different than he would normally look. It's all very self-explanatory. I don't really need to go into it, I don't think. I can if you guys want me to. The biggest thing would be, where do you get cosmetic keys? The easiest way to get cosmetic keys would be the grand medals and then items. Most people just have way too many grand medals, and you can get them here at the bottom. That would be the biggest thing, but other than that, it's pretty simplistic. So the next thing that we see at the top is your total gear score. So this is the gear score combination between all of your 4 stats: your attack, your magic attack, your defense, and your magic defense, which we can see each of those stats as well underneath. The S, this is all of the current skills that you have equipped and their levels. So this is a great way for newer players to check all of their gear and make sure that it is the correct level. Everything should be around level 5. There are instances where you could have level 7 stuff, so I do have some level 7 stuff apparently, like this one. So yeah, the last 2 infusions, the purple ones, those allow you to level them up, but we'll get to that. The last thing is the synergy skills. Each item has a synergy skill. Weapons can have 2 synergy skills. There are different synergy skills, and I think I'll make that a separate video. There's just too many to go over in this video. But here's an easy way to find all of the synergy skills that you've currently got. All right, moving down. So we can, like I said before, you can see your attack, your magic attack, your defense, and your magic defense here. It's not super important to be able to see those here. You can also find that information if you go back to the home screen and then you press on the little orange dude in the bottom left. You can see your stats the way that other people would see them. But this is just when you're equipping gear, it's a fast way to look at it. So moving down further, we have all of these really confusing symbols. You have fire, water, wind, light, dark, time, and star. And then you have this red line, which is the weapons and monsters. And then you have the blue line, which is the defenses. So we'll get to that. But first I'm going to press on this little eye. We're going to go in here. So this is all the details for which elements beat which. So water beats fire, fire beats wind, wind beats water. That's pretty simple. If we move to the other graph, it is light beats time and dark. Dark beats light and time. Time beats star, and star beats light and dark. So yeah, so there's 2 separate tabs to this. So it shows your base attack and your base magic attack at the top here. And then it shows a 1, that's a percentage. So it'd be 10% increase. So you can see like the 1 under the fire. And then I don't have any water stuff equipped. And then I have 7 wind. So for the fire, you can see that it increases my base stats when I'm fighting wind. So we have to follow this weird chart here at the bottom. So fire beats wind. So my wind attack is 10% higher because I have 1. Now, if we go all the way to the far right, you can see that I have 10 star attack. And remember that star beats light and dark. So you'll see that my light and dark attacks are increased by at least 100%. You have 130% against the against dark, and then 160% against light. And that's because I also have some light and dark. So this is when you're trying to attack a certain stat, you can see how your base stats change depending on what you have equipped. Defense is another thing. The base stats that you get from defense, as you can see, are pretty weak. So I've got 120 light and 140 star, and that gives me a total of 52,000 defense, which really isn't that great. So going out of this, you have a certain amount of cost, and you need cost in order to equip weapons. So each weapon or armor or monster costs a certain amount. The top number shows how much you're using. The bottom number shows how much you have in that specific slot. So for instance, I have 366 weapon cost that I can equip weapons with, and I'm only using 361. So it's not really efficient. But this is an alternate account that I'm trying to level up, so I haven't used any of the special cost allocation items yet. I'm just kind of throwing it in to get my stats boosted. You can see helms, same thing. I'm using 183 out of 198. So remaining cost shows how much cost you currently haven't put in to any of your separate things. So if we press a lot, so if I have 7, so if we press a lot, you can see I can put up to 7 cost in something. So I could put 7 cost in weapons, which probably would be smart at some point, but unnecessary. I wouldn't auto. Auto is really strange. It doesn't do what you probably would need it to do. My suggestion is I will eventually release like class tutorials for each separate class, and how to properly build them and what is good with each class. A standard class would have 10 weapons, so that would be roughly like 400 weapon cost, and then if you want to go like full DPS, then you would go 400 into monster cost as well. That way you can equip 10 monsters. And then after that, you would just put everything else into whatever is the best gear that you have, either helms or armor. I think most classes follow that basic principle. There are a couple that you would say, well, you don't need as many monsters, or you don't even need as many weapons. Like if you're playing Rook, then you would want everything into helm, armor, and monsters, specifically defense stuff. So there are exceptions, but just for a general reference, you want 10 weapons, and most classes can benefit from 10 monsters. And then the rest of it can just go into helms and armors that you have that's best. Underneath the cost allotment, and you have these 4 separate tabs. First one is for weapons. Now you can click on a weapon, or if you haven't unequipped something, so if I didn't have this equipped, then you could click on an empty slot, and you can see at the bottom, you can see remaining cost. So how much can I use to equip an item? So if you didn't have enough, like let's say I don't have enough to do another hat, I know that. So if I click on this one, it says remaining cost 15. So I can't use the 39 cost or the 38 cost. I'd have to scroll down. I don't even think I have anything. I have some random crap. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. So I'm basically wasting 15 cost right now on my helmets. I'm not too worried about it. We'll get to how to reallocate cost. which I suppose I can do now, actually. Yeah, I'll just tell you now. So if you click on a lot and then reallocate cost, I would recommend, if you have a lot of things to do and you're still trying to get the hang of it, to just get the Drink of Enlightenment. Pretty much everyone will need a Drink of Enlightenment when you're first starting out. I wouldn't use it right away. I would wait until you're level 240, which is the current max level. I mean, if the max level increases, just whatever the max level is, I would recommend you to be at least that or have spawned a lot. It lasts for a month where you can change your cost levels. So you could subtract it and add however you see fit. The scroll of the scroll of insight is another way to do it, but it removes 2 cost from every gear slot. So it's kind of a pain in the butt, and it's also pretty expensive. I would only recommend getting scrolls of insight if you just need like very, very small changes and you've basically already got a set build. That would be like the only situation. So going back into this, now if we press and hold on a weapon, we can see a lot about the actual weapon. So we can see the attack, the magic attack, the cost, so 37 cost. It has been reforged. The reforged dot just shows that it's been reforged. So if you look at a piece of gear that isn't reforged, like this random book, see how it just has one, shows that it can be reforged but hasn't been. And then underneath that, you can see infusions. So this has been infused twice. This is just the standard gear that comes when you play the main story quest. So you can do up to 5 infusions with this one. Like I talked about earlier, you can actually increase the level when you get to the last 2 infusions. So the first 3 are all blue, and then when you hit the first purple one, then you can do level 6 for that item, or for that skill, and level 7 would be the last infusion. The type shows relic. Now there are 8 weapons. So there's a sword, the axe, the scythe, the lance, the bow, the gun, the staff, the relic, the book, and that's it. So like 9. But the typing is actually pretty important in some situations. The typing can be very, very valuable because some classes don't benefit both types. So like a lancer, or like in this case a cleric, they can use books and relics. But if you're doing a berserker, they only benefit from relics. If you're looking at the books and the relics, I mean, they benefit from other things too, like guns and axes and scythes and staves. But from the cleric items, they only benefit from relics. And then, so moving down, we can see the level. The level increases by 10 for each time that it's infused. So a standard item that hasn't been infused would be, here's one, will be 70. So this one's been infused twice, so it is 90. Moving down, you have the ability itself, and then you have this little S thing. This shows, if you press on the S, you can see what synergy it has. We talked about synergies earlier. Yeah, I'll just do that in a separate video. Oh, I forgot to mention, underneath the typing, it shows how much the item gives to a specific attack item. So we can see that it's a time item. So you can see in the bottom left corner of the actual relic, it'll show a time icon. So when we click and hold it, it says it gives 3 time, and time beats star. So we can, if we go back, then I've got 6 time attack, and that's coming from these 2 weapons here. These 2. So yeah. And then going down further, you can see the favorite is this star. You would only unfavorite SSR stuff if you're going to sell it, which we'll get to eventually as well in a different tutorial. But most things would just be starred. Then you can see your level in the top right is level 5, and then what the actual ability does, and then augment back. This little book over here, it just shows you the Limapedia item. So you've got your standard weapons. You've got your helms, which are basically the same thing, except for they give defense. This one gives 20 light defense. So that would benefit if you're fighting against dark and time, which the current event is dark monsters. So yeah, it would be the best to equip that. And then you've got your clothings and your monsters. One thing that I do want to talk about with monsters is similar to how weapons and armors have infusions. Monsters have hidden potentials. It says hidden under Reforge, but the total word is hidden potential. We can actually see that there's a separate bar here for it. So if you click on it, you can see when you infuse this with, or when you unlock the hidden potential by putting a similarly cost monster into it, or a Nino, which is like Reforged material, into this monster, then you'll get bonus stats. So you'll get bonus 8,000 stats to the first stat, which in this case is magic attack. Then you get star defense from uni damage plus 300, which I'll talk about in just a second. Then you'll get the increased stat selection of the second slot by 8,000, which is in this case defense. And then curse resistance plus 30. So star, you'll see these defense the unison damage defense from specific colors a lot. And this is a huge mistake that I see a lot of newer players making, is they die to unison very, very easily. They don't survive unis, even really, really weak unis, they just die to. So the way that you survive uni is through two ways. You can either get the Xenos gear, which only works for the base characters. I can show you that. So we'll go to Limapedia actually right now. So if you go to the main piece, the main menu, and then we click on the little blue arrow and you press jam, it'll send you to the Limapedia website. This is another way to get all that information. But so if we press defense gear, I know it's, let's just look at the clothing because I know that one the most. And the current one is 41 cost. So if you get like this is a special gear that you get from, we can check out the first piece of gear. Hang on just a second. Go back all the way to the beginning. So this is what you would get right out of the gate. And in order to upgrade it, you would need, in order to buy it, you need these Granvia shield crests, which you can see at the bottom here, the materials needed, the first one. What this dress does is, you can read it here, reduces the ability power of unison attacks and Great Spirit unison's uni attacks, which the Great Spirit refers to the combination of two things. So if you combine two fire, then it has that fire animation where it like throws the giant explosion ball. So it's talking about that. Of all elements received by a certain percentage, effects only activate when an archer, mage, or cleric is wearing it. So these only work for the first 5 classes. They don't work for any of the additional classes. So I wouldn't recommend relying on them. They are very, very powerful. But again, you need to be playing the game for a long time in order to make these even work. Again, that's why it's not ideal. So if we go back into this, you can see right here, this guy, he's a fire monster. And if we click hidden potentials, he gives fire defense from uni down, from the uni damage. Now for a lot of new players, that would sound like you gain defense against fire attacks. But that's not the case. You actually gain fire unison defense, but it applies to wind because of this chart. It's the most confusing and just idiotic way to say wind defense. But essentially, if it says fire defense from unison, then it's actually wind defense. So it protects you against wind unis, even though it says fire damage. It's retarded. But so in order to survive unis, you need monsters that give you strong unison defense. Now, the most powerful unisons in the game right now are wind, water, and star. So I would recommend to all the newer players, and even some, I see some veteran-ish players die to uni that they shouldn't die to. All you have to do is equip like these monsters that give you protection against those. So what you would want is you want fire monsters and you want wind monsters. So wind will protect you against the water monsters and fire will protect you against the wind monsters. And then you also want time, at least one time monster, because star monsters are very, very powerful. And not everything gives you the best. As you can see, this character right here gives you 300. And, you know, there are other characters. I don't have any on. There are characters that give 500, 600. I think the most I've seen is 600. I might have seen 700. But some of the newer characters are like that. All right. And then the last thing at the bottom here is the auto assign gear. So if we press auto assign gear, it'll just show what you want to auto assign. And so right now I'm just going to say no, because we're going to change it. So right now, right next to the auto assign gear, there's a little gear symbol. If we press that, it'll pop this up. So it'll say, okay, what do you want the most of? So do you want attack, magic attack, or a balance of both? Since I am a confusing individual. No, it's mostly because I'm running specific quests and this account isn't super high. I've got some defense stuff and then the attack, but you can always turn these off if you'd like. What's really important about this menu, though, is the select enemy element. Now this is also confusing, but it shows you what element you would like to attack. So let's say I'm attacking water. If I press on the water key and then I press save, then I can go to auto assign gear. And let's just say that I wanted all of it assigned to water. So we press yes, and bada bing, bada boom. Look at that. All wind stuff, because remember, wind beats water. And then I've got a bunch of wind gear to help me defend against water. More wind gear. I don't have that much, so it equips as much as it can. And if we go here to the little eye thing, we can see my attack is massive. It's 572,000. And my magic attack is even higher at 919,000 against water. And then if we go to defenses, we can see I changed that as well. And now I have 36,000 bonus defense. Again, defenses aren't really that great. I wouldn't worry too much about the defenses. The attack is really what you want. So, yeah. Oh, the last thing that I really wanted to go over was the differences between all of the different cost weapons. So when you're equipping weapons, just to simplify things, I'm going to go to filter and I'm going to remove everything that's not a relic so that we can see it. Oh, I didn't do that one. Okay. All right. So now it'll show me only relics. So you can see this relic right here gives 28,000 magic attack, which is the only stat that really matters. The attack doesn't matter for healing. It's only magic attack. One cost difference. So you can see this is the 38 cost. The one right next to it is the 37 cost, and it gives 4,000 less. You can see it takes 2 infusions to even be similar. But if we take that to an extreme, so let's say that we're comparing this 38 cost, here, just to simplify things, 38 cost, and we're going to compare this 38 cost to a 34 cost. So we're comparing this 38 cost to this 34 cost. 4 cost, only 4 cost difference. We click this, it'll show you the differences as well as the synergy, as well as the skill change. But the biggest thing is we can see 4 cost is equivalent to 11,000 magic attack lost. 4 cost. And we'll get to like what are the best spawns. But as you can see, the higher the cost, the better the item is stats wise. Now the best players in the game actually don't use all of the best gear, and that's because the best gear doesn't always have the best procs. So we'll talk about procs as well on a different time, like how to choose the best procs. But for just a base reference, the higher the cost, the better the gear. I would recommend you always try to get the highest cost gear, which right now we're transitioning from 39 cost weapons to 40 cost weapons. So it's not a good time to spawn right now. But as you can see, the higher the cost, it becomes much more powerful. And if you fully infuse something, so if we compare, let's say that we're comparing this 34 cost to another 34 cost, so the same book that we were just looking at, when you fully infuse it, it increases its stats by a lot. So we can equip this, and you can see there's a total of about 6,000 difference, which is quite a bit. So yeah, sorry it's been so long. Thanks for sticking with me, and I will catch you guys on the flip side.